Hello and welcome to MacFormat's weekly Apple Extravaganza. I'm Chris Finn.
I'm Matt Bolton.
And on this episode we talk about Apple being bastards.
Router rewards.
And a really teeny tiny hard disk. Let's start with news in the world of Apple. I am in mourning.
Right.
There is a reason.
I was wondering.
It's not just me being a dick wearing a tie to work.
Not just.
Not solely. I'm in mourning for Aperture.
Oh.
Because Aperture, Apple's pro photo solution, will be no more. It is an X-app.
It is. It has shuffled off this mortal coil.
Indeed. Which is, I think, a real bloody shame. Because it was good.
Good enough?
Yeah. It was a good app. I was a Lightroom user, which is Adobe's equivalent. And I switched to Aperture when Aperture 2 came out, not in no small part because of the Faces and Places features in it.
Okay.
Which gave really nice, easy ways of managing it, and an alternate way of managing your photo library based on who was in the photographs, and then it would do some auto detection stuff. Obviously, that stuff's in iPhoto now as well. Yeah. But it was a big thing in Aperture, and it's a really, really nice app to use. But Apple has decided that when Photos comes out with in the early 2015 is the closest they've given us, isn't it? That'll be it for Aperture. It's gone.
Dead.
Which is a real shame. Adobe released a statement, commented about the same time the news broke, to our good friend Mr. Jim Dalrymple on Infinite Loop, on the Loop, that they were doubling down
on Lightroom.
On Lightroom.
Yes.
But they didn't explicitly say we will help to migrate Aperture customers.
No, because we've been pondering about this. We're not sure if they really can. They'd need, unless Apple opens up.
Which is not impossible.
Not impossible, but unless Apple opens up how the Aperture, not how the database is managed so much as how the changes are recorded.
Yeah, the metadata effectively. Because in Lightroom, it could be really easy. If you're working in ACR, it can be really easy. You can just save the changes you make as an XMP sidecar, as a little extra file. So if you're adjusting things, what that file basically records, it's got the same file name as the photo itself, but then it's got a different file extension. It's just the things you've changed and how you've changed them. So that those can be rebuilt from the ground up, reprocessed each time you look at that photograph. Don't know how Apple does it, and nobody knows how Apple does it. Aperture, Adobe could reverse engineer it. There are legal questions about that. Yeah. But we don't know. It does have an impetus to do it here, because we were looking and we saw that for iPhoto, the only thing it does is it allows Adobe has a migration page on its website for iPhoto, but it's rubbish, because all it says is open up the package, get all the original photographs out of it, and re-import them into Lightroom, which is not a good way of doing things.
And then make all your changes all over again.
And reorganize them into albums and folders and all that sort of stuff, so that's bad. But it didn't really have a good reason to do it before, because even though there's millions and millions of iPhoto users, they're just iPhoto users. They're not necessarily going to look to spend the money to move to a more professional solution, a more powerful solution.
Even with it being £8 a month subscription or whatever, if iPhoto does what you need, you don't just start paying £8 a month
for no reason.
For no real reason.
However, in this context, it's conceivable that if you've got people who are in a heavy Aperture workflow who are making very strong use of it, they may well be the sort of customers that Adobe would like to attract. So it might put the work in to actually help them move stuff across.
Yes. I mean, of course, Aperture will still work.
That's the other thing. We don't know at what point Aperture will stop working. We just don't know.
Presumably, at some point, an OS update will break it.
Or an architecture change or something, yes.
Yeah, something like that.
It would take quite a big change.
Yeah, with all the operating system updates now are reasonably minor. Like 10.10 is going to work on the same hardware that 10.9 did.
That 10.8 did.
That 10.8 did. So it's we're not talking about dumping systems at the moment, and no huge lower level changes like 10.6 brought in.
10.7 and 10.7 as well did a lot of back end stuff. But it seems like we're pretty settled now. Not to say that Apple's going to rest in its laurels or that there's nothing more to be done, but it seems like we're at a fairly mature stage with OS 10 in particular now. Yeah, that we're not going to see big changes. But I'm really sad to see it go. I liked Aperture. It was a nice app to use. I have a lot of work invested in it. I will keep using it.
You won't switch to Lightroom.
Well, that's part of the problem, is that if I want to switch back to Lightroom, I can pay an amount that I can't remember, but it's now showing on your screen, to buy it outright. one for you there,
Matt.
To buy it outright and use it forever, and that's fine. But you don't get the cloud syncing stuff that you get with the Creative Cloud solution. Or you can pay, as you say, it's $8.90 or something a month, and it gives you access to Lightroom and Photoshop and some other benefits as well, including cloud storage and syncing and mobile. I don't want to pay subscription software. I just don't. It doesn't suit me. It's low cost up front, but I don't want to be spending for 5-10 years on.
Especially as you've still got something that works.
Exactly.
All right, well then, let's move on that note to talking about the wider world of tech.
And I'll take my tie off.
Right, well, I was reading about a sort of a router. It's technically just router software, but they do actually sell a router that goes with it. And the idea is for...
Who is they?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
The idea is for rewarding your kids with screen time. It's a company called Kudosu, I think. I assume it's a play on kudos, as it's a reward.
Kudos!
But the idea is that it's not just about my kids go on the internet lots, I need to limit their... Obviously, you can't limit all the screen time through a router, but you can limit Facebook access, YouTube access, things like that. So the idea is you can specify, as I understand it, you can specify your kids' devices to the router.
MAC address, presumably?
Something like that. Specify...
And incidentally, when I say MAC address, I don't mean the flat 4. It's not the address at which your Mac resides.
No.
It's a MAC, capital Machine Access Code or something it stands for, doesn't it?
Yes.
Or Machine Authorization Code, no, it's Access Code, I think, which is a unique identifier to the network port in that device. So
yes.
It's definitely going to be that device.
Except iOS 8 will bring in randomized MAC addresses on iOS devices.
But that's all been searching.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
So basically the idea is you as a parent have control over the router, the Kudosu router software. What you do, you block particular sites, and then you can just, when kids do something good, you reward them with a set amount of time. You can have an hour of everything, or just half an hour of Facebook. You can do units, so that like one reward unit is equivalent to half an hour of Facebook or an hour of YouTube, for example. Different units for different sites. So it's about managing and rewarding, positive reinforcement rather than just outright limitation.
It sounds like a clever solution, and it sounds like a thing that some parents would like. It does strike me that again we're just sort of we're policing with technology stuff that should be dealt with through chatting and better parenting, if you like. The idea of instilling a sense of responsibility and accountability and consequences rather than just blocking stuff. But this is a philosophical difference. I think some people will just disagree with me and think that I'm being not pragmatic and silly, and some people will think that I'm right.
But because for me this is different to just the blocking thing. This is the point is not the blocking. The point is the
positive
reinforcement,
management
and the reward. Because I mean, almost the internet is different to how either of us grew up. Even me, I grew up with the internet for much of it, not wireless and not everywhere. It was a big pain, it was a hassle. And I think even mobile phones, like the kids get them younger now than I did when I was youthful. But it's like parents always withhold things that kids like, that they want to do all the time. And they ask them to do something first. You can go out and play once you've done something. But when they've got the thing they want to do with them all the time, like it's a completely different kettle of fish.
I see the point you're making. It's not... Because I would have argued, that sounds fine, but why not just... We will build better citizens if we can have them being self-disciplining and responsible and lapsing every now and then, but realising what the consequences of that are, rather than policing it. But your point is, it's about the ubiquity of the device and the access being in your pocket.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's so tempting to check Facebook.
Yeah.
Or to...
I mean, I'm crap at self-disciplining at work with this stuff. I don't expect a kid to the homework they don't want to do to be self-disciplining. And you
so you're wholly in favour.
Neither of us have kids, of course.
That's true.
So this is I have no objection to it, rather than I'm in favour of it. I'm not promoting it, but I'm saying I can see this kind of use of it. You could give kids all weekend, because it's not about, like, it would just be about for me at least about the timings, about choosing when to block it and when to reward it. You could still say weekends are yours, do what you want, go on it as much as you want. It's not about a moral panic over the amount of time they should spend. It's about understanding that this is what kids do these days with their spare time, and just as we have always rationed and managed what our kids would do, when they would be allowed out to see friends.
Yes.
When they were allowed to use the home phone to call friends.
Yeah. I am discomfited, but I can't quite articulate quite why. So
I'm with you. Like, in that, I think
it shouldn't be a replacement for parenting.
No, absolutely. But as a parenting tool, I think it's, and it possibly helps teach the value of this screen time, of if you're struggling to self-discipline, and maybe it'll help teach discipline. The key thing is, or not the key thing, the original information that I sort of glossed over, a company called Kusodu, they sell for $80 just the software that works with some compatible routers, or for an extra $30 you can have their router. And you just control it from a control panel. Well,
let us know what you think of what we just talked about. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Is it going to generate a generation of resentful and I don't know, tech unsavvy? No, that's the bad idea.
Or will it produce people who value the power of the internet more?
And let us know what you think of the Aperture thing as well. Big user, not big user, let us know in the comments below, and what you're going to do about it, or if you're excited about the new Photos app coming up from Apple. However, let's move on to some kit, and we have 2 pieces of kit for you this time. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Pegasus 2 M4, which does look a little bit like it's a normal size RAID that's been hit by a shrink ray.
Just a really crap shrink ray.
Yeah,
that shrinks it by...
And that's it. That's as far as it's gone. What we have here is a 4-bay RAID drive based on 2.5-inch drive mechanisms rather than the 3.5-inch desktop drives.
So it won't take full-size desktops.
Indeed.
So it will take either slower hard drives or, and I'm guessing this is the real point, SSDs.
Well, you say that, but yes, it would. But there's 2 things to talk about there. One is that as you buy it from the Apple Store in the UK, you only buy it pre-populated with 4 1TB drives. In the US, you can buy it bare and put your own drives in. Okay. At which point you could populate it with those cheap, crucial MX100s that we talked about a couple of episodes ago that are 150 quid for 512 gigabytes. Huge amount of speed. But actually, you kind of almost don't have to, because when we tested its big brother,
right,
the one that's like this but based on desktop drives, that's not 3.5 inches, Matt. I'm terrified to tell you, sir. But when we tested it, it was again a hard disk based system, but configured as RAID 1, which is what it is by default. Let's say high speed.
Isn't that RAID 0?
I don't think so. I think RAID 0 is mirrored. Let's clarify this by saying whichever one of the number RAIDs it is that is fast, that's striping the data across multiple drives.
Yes.
It was essentially flooding Thunderbolt 1.
So 10 gigabits per second.
It wasn't quite hitting 10, but it was hitting 9.4, 9.5 at peak speeds, putting the data across all the 4 drives. Now we haven't benchmarked this one yet, so we don't know if that's going to get the same. These are 5400 RPM drives, I think. Oh, I could be wrong on that. I can't quite remember. Regardless, we haven't benchmarked this, and it could be slower because mobile drives tend to be a little bit slower than desktop drives anyway.
Yeah.
But it could be the case that you don't actually need to be putting SSDs in here to get fast speed.
If you've got 4 in a stripe.
If you've got 4 in a striped array. This does support RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6 and RAID 10. Go to Wikipedia to find out all about those. Actually,
I know some of them. I don't know RAID 10.
The really key one in there is RAID 5.
Yes.
which is the one everyone likes, because RAID 5 gives you the benefits of speed and security. You have redundancy in the drives, i.e. one can fail. I think one can fail with RAID 5 and two can fail with RAID 6, but Wikipedia will correct me, as will the commenters below, I trust. But RAID 5 gives you speed and redundancy for the price of a little bit of loss in capacity.
Yeah. Yes.
This one's Thunderbolt 2.
So it can do 20.
So it can do 20 gigabits per second.
But you probably would need SSDs for that.
But you probably would need SSDs for that, absolutely. But the reason, basically, for why would you buy this one rather than the big one, they're both about £1,000, I think, for a 4 terabyte configuration as we have here for 1 terabyte, which is not a small amount of money.
No, it isn't.
But it is very high performance, and it's a hardware RAID as well, remember.
Did you catch how much the Bear one was?
No,
okay.
I didn't, sorry. I say it's hardware RAID in here, so it's not the case that the Mac's having to deal with where to put the data as you would in a lot of software RAIDs, in sort of consumer level drives. The Mac itself has to manage the RAID system.
Yeah, so it won't use any resources.
There's no overhead, it's usually faster, and it's also hot swappable, so that if a drive fails and you're in the correct configuration of RAID, you can pop one out, pop one in, and it will rebuild, which is very nice. But the reason you buy this rather than the big one is because this is classed as portable.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it's definitely technically portable.
Just sling in my bag.
The point was, I think that one of their lines is, it's enough for an hour of uncompressed 4K footage. Portably. And the thing is, you can definitely see where they're going, and I absolutely guarantee that there are some filmmakers who will like that, and who will use it. But it is still slightly complicated. One more thing, though.
Yes.
And that is the best keyboard ever.
Unless you like your hearing.
This here is the Matthias Tactile Pro keyboard, which is a mechanical keyboard. It's got the same switches for each key as the legendary Apple Extended keyboard, which was, and still is for a lot of people, heralded as the best keyboard ever made. I think John Gruber still uses one via an ADB USB connector adapter. And here it is. It looks great. Mr. Cameron, if you come in nice and close, you will see that the keys have the alternate characters printed on them, so that if you can't remember how to type an accented E, for example, you can find out how to do it here. It's lovely. But the best thing about it,
it's nice and quiet.
Even if you hold that, I know this won't be a nice, I can't actually type like this, but just so we're not picking up sound through the table for the microphone. And it is really, really quite loud. This is actually the quietest I can type on it. That's me just triggering the keys, and that's quite loud.
It's just...
But
when you use it in the office, before we kill you, we could just clack, 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 clack.
Yeah, I mean, and people from banks and banks and banks of desks away were sort of coming over and having a chat to me about it. It is fab. It's 120 quid. It's very expensive. But and frankly, I can type much faster on Apple's low-profile scissor key action modern keyboards. That requires less pressure on each key. But I know a lot of people are utterly wedded to these.
If you worked from home and had a dog that wasn't too nervous, it would be fun.
And possibly understanding neighbours as well, depending on quite how the words are flowing. There we go. But the reason we got this in is we're doing a group test of keyboards in an upcoming issue of MacFormat, so look out for that. Wrap us up, Mr. Bolton.
So don't forget that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to get all of our future episodes. You can watch any of our past episodes using the little bit in the middle, where we're doing something from last week. I'll work out what later. And, of course, you can get a free trial of the MacFormat Interactive iPad App Edition magazine that's full of lots of lovely bells and whistles and good knowledge and facts. You can do that at macformat.com/iPad.
That's it for this week, though. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Oh, there we go. That worked better that time. I usually struggle to take the Taft Windsor off.
Help!
It took me a couple of attempts to get it right this morning.
Finally, the video everyone's been wanting to see.